My feelings are not being considered.
Edit point. I've got something about Tarmac.
Maybe the biggest global event of 2026.
Hello and welcome to the Traxion Control Podcast, your weekly racing game and sim racing news, download, discussion, community roundup. And it's a bank holiday special. We're recording it on our day off. It's a bit ramshackle, but there we go. That's just how it works sometimes when you have to have a weekly podcast. We must do weekly podcasts, apparently. So, John and Tom, back again. John, what have you been up to this weekend?
I've been out on circuit for the first time in a wee while, doing some real racing stuff, or at least a sprint event up in Scotland. So yeah, that was really good fun. New car for us as well. So the first time out in the Force PT, which is a carbon fiber single seater with a bike engine, and we had a blast. It was very, very wet throughout the whole of Saturday, so didn't get a single dry run in, but we learnt a lot about the car in the wet and had a good result. It was good fun. But of course, being Scotland, you wouldn't be surprised to hear it was actually snowed off on the Sunday. So we turned up to the circuit. I managed to get to the circuit just about, and yeah, it was a blanket of snow across the tarmac and across the asphalt. Sorry, we're not making that mistake again. And the event was called off. So I chilled a little bit more on the Sunday than I expected. But overall, it was great fun. Really, really nice to be back out there.
Tom, what did you get up to? Racing cars, I'm sure.
Well, I bought a small tree for my patio. I had a barbecue, which was really nice. Although we did have to go and buy a gazebo mid barbecue because, again, Britain, therefore rain, right? So yeah, I did very little. Actually, I did have some friends over on Thursday night, and we did like a little bring your own food party. Which actually, thinking about it's a bit of a cop out, isn't it? I'll host a dinner party, but you bring the dinner. But it worked. It was fun.
That's how Tom rolls when he invites people around. Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm nothing if not generous. But we did, as often happens when I have friends over who haven't been on a sim rig, conversation always turns to sim racing. And then at about 11:30 at night, after quite a few beers, we ended up on the rig up here with the MetaQuest 3 VR headset on, doing some laps on iRacing. It was good. It was good fun. So I did do some racing this weekend, but it was mainly gardening.
Less snowing.
Yes, apologies. I will do more racing this weekend, I promise. How about you, Tom?
Well, I spent the weekend, and I'm continuing to play as we record now, Forza Horizon 6, because we have an early preview build. So this game is releasing in May, but before then we have a vertical slice, as we say in the industry, and we're going to be delivering a preview hands-on for this game, which we'll talk about in a minute, later today, as you listen to this. But I just need to pick up John, because John mentioned there Asphalt and Tarmac, and why we don't mention Tarmac, because Tarmac is a brand name. It's a genericide, because we've got so used to using it, it's actually a name of Asphalt. And the original company, which I just read in the latest issue of Car Magazine, I don't know why I'm giving this a plug, was Tar Macadam Syndicate Limited, which was then shortened down to Tarmac. Right, anyway, we should move on.
Well, never say you don't learn anything listening to this podcast. Also, this should not be edited out. The fact that Tom just had to run downstairs to his living room to find this magazine. We've been sat here for 10 minutes. It's 9 a.m. on a bank holiday Monday.
I just read it, and it's funny because we mentioned on last week's episode when John went, I'll give John a yellow card for saying Tarmac, because in writing, in editorial, we would use the term Asphalt because it's a brand name. And I had to go. That was important podcasting information there. We had to explain that for the listener. So
yeah, it was the sim racing equivalent of the Biro, the Hoover, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly. Although Hoover is an eponym because it's named after Mr. Hoover, whereas Tarmac is a genericide.
This feels like an extended edition.
This will be for the paying members only.
Right. Anyway, Forza. We mentioned Forza. So, just to be clear, we can't say anything now, but we can say something later. And normally, when we have something under NDA or embargo, as terms might be called, we actually can't say in public that we're doing it and we're playing it. This is a rare exception that said, as of this date, you can actually say that we're playing it, but nothing, no further. So there we go. We can actually say that we've been playing it. So before we dive into right now, I can't give you the full detailed opinions. Check the website and YouTube for that soon. But I just want to go through what each of us hopes and dreams are for Forza Horizon 6, if that's all right. So we'll start with Tom. This should be a big game, right?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think for me, it bridges a gap in sim racing. Okay, kind of. This will make sense in a moment, right? It bridges a gap for a particular way of playing that I really appreciate, which is co-op, right? So I really enjoy co-op mode games, and usually those are like strategy games or first-person shooters. I love it when you're working together with a friend. Now,
and last week also that car breakerage game. Bunton's Breakers or whatever it was called. I can't remember what it's
Bunty's
called.
Bangers.
Bunty's Bangers.
Yeah. Bunty's Bangers from Car Service Simulator, Car Service World.
I can't remember.
It's the name is not memorable, and I'll be honest, I haven't played it since, but I will. So yeah, I really like a co-op game, and obviously, that there are driver swap events on a lot of LMU, iRacing, etc. So that is co-op, right? That is definitely co-op. But those are for the high end, super hardcore. When you go down the ladder a little bit, so that you're in the kind of simcade arcade, there isn't a huge amount of ways of playing with friends rather than against friends. And I do think Forza Horizon 6 and the car meets car cultures, the open world element, the online element of Forza Horizon 6 will create an environment where you can jump on with a friend and play together rather than against each other. So I'm really looking forward to Forza Horizon 6 going out, and there's a few of us in the office that are going to play that together. So I would say, for me, I really hope that there's lots that you can do in the game with your friends that you're playing with rather than just against them.
I think there definitely will be. Maybe.
Yeah, just on that as well, we used to actually do Goliath races at lunchtime on Forza Horizon 5 when that first came out. In the Traxion offices, so we've had experience of co-op Forza in the office, and yeah, just huge amounts of fun.
If it's anything like the previous one, then you could do pretty much every other career mode event co-op if you wanted to.
Yeah, that sounds like good fun. I do love the co-op stuff, but I have to say, the thing that gets me about Forza is the sense of adventure. It's something I talked about with Ross a few weeks ago, but I want the map to be vast, but not in a way that just feels aimless. I want the map to feel sort of dynamic and exciting, and I want to feel like I never know what's coming next. Whichever direction I take, I'm going to go into a different biome and experience something completely different. It's that sense of adventure that I look forward to, especially the early days of playing a new Forza game, Forza Horizon game, of course. But I also would like to see this progression system at a slightly more kind of rewarding pace, which is what I believe should be the case based on what we know about the wristband system. But of course, what that pace is and whether it's just a sort of sticking plaster, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what I would like to see.
Well, I agree on both counts. I do think the plethora of options for playing together with friends is a real strong Forza Horizon point that's sometimes overlooked, especially sometimes when you're doing like a preview thing and you're just playing it solo, so we can't assess that at the minute.
That's sad.
Yeah, but it seems like if this is a derivation from 5, and I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if, then it will have all those features, I'm sure. And then the world, Japan is what a lot of fans have requested for a long time. So on paper, Japan is an amazing location. I just wanted to quickly talk on what an embargo is and stuff like this, because we briefly mentioned it there, and I'll keep this brief because it is very dry. But generally how it works is we will receive something from a game publisher or developer, and we agree not to publish before a certain deadline and date our opinions. And some people think, well, why can't you just publish it now? But I think one element of that is to keep it fair for all the content creators and media publications. If you just give it to someone and then say, right, you can publish immediately, then it's whoever's willing to work overnight, not sleep, and also then it creates like a rush of the content where you're not properly evaluating things. I think we've had this one for about a week, which is very nice, and I would really like more game companies to give us extra time.
You're so right on that one, Tom, just to jump in, because sometimes you will only get like a day where, the embargo is a day after receiving content, and actually although all you can do is as much as you can within a small time frame. But if you've got to turn around articles and opinions, but also make a video out of it, that includes editing processes, capturing, all of these things. And it sometimes creates a mad rush that actually you don't necessarily feel like you can really go into the depths of anything too far. At least it's the same for everybody, but it does affect the content that you might make on that particular product. So it's always great when we get a lot of time in advance before an embargo.
Yeah, I think one company that's done really well with us recently, and I mean us in terms of the media in general, has been Milestone with Screamer and Ride 6. I think we had a couple of weeks to fully assess the game. And in particular, for both those games, they have really long careers, and we were able to get a lot of the way through Ride 6, or the main bits, and also for Screamer, finish the full story, which is 20-odd plus hours. If you think about, that's a lot of time to do during the day, in your evenings, in your weekends and stuff. Then you have to think creatively and write something that's interesting and assesses the main points, and then edit the video, and then get the screenshots to the website. You know what I mean? So that's wonderful. But then I won't name them, but sometimes we get things on a Friday afternoon with an embargo of Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon. That's a worst case scenario. We do sometimes push for that, but sometimes we just can't, because it's not gonna. We're not going to be in our best form, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair as well. Like just another example, recently we had the double embargo, which you don't often see, but we had a situation where we could play a game and we had an embargo for a certain time of day, but then there was a second part where you also have access to the second part, but it's secret, and then we're not going to talk or mention that at all or show it until the next day at a separate time. So then you're juggling what you do with those options as well. So there's all sorts of different things you end up doing. I know that you said this was dry, and it is pretty dry sounding, but I'm sure some of you listening might want a little bit of an insight into what it's like to produce these things.
We're going to move on. Although one thing I would say, occasionally things change while you're doing it, and then that can lead to mistakes. And I don't think we're completely innocent in breaking into embargo by accident once or twice before. We really, really work a lot hard to do that. But I did see for a particular thing recently, people were live streaming, reading through the document of the embargo. Don't ever do that, because you've broken everything and you've told everybody what it is. So
it feels risky.
Right, next thing. So we are nothing if not topical. And 8 days after April Fool's, we're going to go through some of the best and worst. I think they're all good, actually. April Fool's things in sim racing. We didn't do one this year. So a couple that I spotted that I quite enjoyed, quite relatively basic, but Fanatec did a podium plant, so it looked like a podium wheelbase on its side, I guess, even though you would mount it on its side. Anyway, vertically with plants shooting out the top of it. And Asher Racing did a cardboard racing wheel to help save the planet. Either of you see anything good?
Well, just on the Fanatec point, last time, if I remember rightly, they do have form for doing an April Fool's joke where they announce something, but then it does actually subsequently come out. Yep. So I'm thinking that maybe there is going to be a Fanatec podium plant that they'll be releasing shortly. We'll see their approved system, their approved use system. If they receive a totally non-working one, you could buy it back as a plant pot.
That's actually not bad.
I mean, it's recycling.
That is a Father's Day gift right there.
Do you remember when Fanatec used to do it with the what was it, the CSL DD, when it looked so small that it was just it's got to be a joke, right? It's got to be a joke, and it wasn't. It was a proper thing, as you said. So
yeah, John, you're quite right to actually list the one I was referring to. Yeah, absolutely. I probably should have mentioned that. Yes, it was the CSL DD, which looked ridiculous, and even now, like if you have like a big wheel rim on it, it still does kind of look like an April Fool's joke. But I mean, it's a very popular wheelbase. So there we go. I'll be putting myself on the list for a Fanatec podium plant. I would say the one that I saw that I enjoyed the most was the Sim Racing Expo post on Instagram about things that you can expect as a visitor to the Sim Racing Expo. And they mentioned that they were going to have quite a lot of Kit Kats to give away for free, which is obviously a very comical riff on the Kit Kat heist of 2026, maybe the biggest global event of 2026. I don't read the news much, but that's probably...
I don't think there's anything else going on.
No, I think that's probably... if only. Imagine a world where the Kit Kat heist was the biggest news item of the year. That'd be a beautiful world to live in. Yeah, Sim Racing Expo have announced that there will be free Kit Kats to give away at the Sim Racing Expo, which I thought was clever. I liked it.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of companies have jumped on this Kit Kat story where over 400,000 F1 shaped Kit Kats was stolen, Actually, the main story is they stole a lorry. I don't think they stole it for the chocolate. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, the chocolate reads better.
Yeah.
Those chocolates are actually really, really good. Like, I had one 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just I saw it. I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a collaboration between Kit Kat and F1. And I've got to say, that's probably my favourite derivation of the Kit Kat.
Yes,
what's your favourite derivation of the Kit Kat, Tom?
No, it's that. Well, the Chunky is a great variety. But these are great because
are you a four-finger guy?
I'm an Easter egg guy. Kit Kat Easter egg.
Okay.
Just to wrap up on the Kit Kats, this is the sort of information you get from Traxion. You know, we're journalists. We're going to dive into it. I'm led to believe on good authority that even though 400,000 was stolen, actually they make 4 million per day of those just in the UK. So it's a mere blot on the chocolate production.
I have a more racing car, sim racing related April Fools that I want to shout out. And it's once again Race Room. To be fair with Race Room, there's a couple of things here, because every year Race Room re-releases for one day only, a shopping cart, which is basically a go-kart with a big engine, and it's a shopping trolley. And you can drive it on April Fool's Day for free, and that's great, because it's actually an April Fool's joke that is playable and is a lot of fun. So credit to Race Room for that. But Race Room also posted that DLSS 5 is now supported in Race Room, so the use of AI to enhance the visuals and all sorts of wacky, incredible stuff that will probably help at some point down the line very soon. But it was maybe a bit too believable, because a lot of people still were asking questions about if this is going to be supported on triple monitors, etc. So well done to Race Room for a good one that's fun and playable, and also just one that a lot of people actually bought.
Well, this is a trend at the minute. The I can't even say it, DLSS 5 joke. And I did see that Skoda Motorsport did the best one, where they had Colin McRae Rally 1. Oh, no, actually, it might be Network Q RAC Rally with the Skoda Felicia and the blocky graphics. And then they said, well, DLS 5 on. And then it was, I think, EA Sports WRC, or Assetto Corsa Rally, I think, actually. And obviously, that's not how it works, but I thought that was well-timed Skoda, and good to see you involved in sim racing. Right, we're moving on to Full Send Dead End. This is our regular format where we put forward a statement, and we say full send if we agree, or dead end if we disagree, and then we debate it amongst ourselves as to what's going on there. So the first one is Forza Horizon 6 will save Xbox. Full send or dead end? Tom?
Dead end.
John?
Dead end.
Well, I'll go full send then. Why not? Right, the next one. AI image generation has made April Fool's jokes too easy. Tom?
Full send.
Yeah. John?
Full send as well.
Yeah, full agreement here. No worries about that. Okay, and the final one. This is big. I think John put this one in there. Going to drop you under the bus there, John. Throw under the bus. Gran Turismo 8 will appear in 2026. Tom?
Full send.
Full send. John?
Dead end.
Oh, I'm going to go dead end as well, but I'll explain why in a minute. Okay. Although appear is an interesting word.
Right.
Let's dive into it.
I have questions about this.
Right, Tom.
I have a bingo card to uphold here, remember?
So are you saying that it might be some sort of trailer or logo reveal this year?
Yeah, well, let's start with the last one. So Gran Turismo 8, yeah, you said appear. So in my mind, an announcement that it's happening, it's being developed, a screenshot, even a trailer, that's it appearing, and that's all I need to be able to stamp that square off of my bingo card. So yes, I'd say yes, it will appear.
So I went dead end initially, but then as soon as I said it, I realised the word appear. So I would like to change. I would agree. I agree with Tom there.
Well, hang on, John. Can Tom change? I think you're locked in once you say it. I don't think you can willy-nilly change your answer.
Yeah, not after he threw/dropped me under the bus. Okay. That's why Tom writes these full sender dead ends, generally speaking. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going. You can change yours, Tom. That's fine. I'm going to stick to my guns.
You can't
always
yours.
Write the full send dead end section of this podcast every time. I think the game will be. I'm hoping it maybe be announced or something. But in terms of actually seeing the game, in terms of like any kind of gameplay or footage or game engine trailers or anything, I'm going to say I predict 2027 now. So that's why I'm saying no to it appearing in 2026.
So what happened over the bank holiday weekend was the excellent gtplanet.net, which has been around for, was it 30 years? 20 years? Oh, but I got the anniversary wrong. A long time, multiple decades. Their users on the forum, which I'm obviously extremely jealous of, they've got this amazing resource to dive into. Some of them were sent a survey, that said, would you like to see a Spec 4 in Gran Turismo 7? Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that's quite a big update. And if that happens, that I think prolongs when we're going to see GT8. But I still think this is the year towards the end to sort of set up a teaser for next year. Like, here's a big update for 7. And by the way, we're working on 8. It's just going to be a couple of years. So there we go.
So are we going to continue to work backwards through the full send dead end?
Well, we might as well now at this point.
I think we should. You've committed to this order, and I like it.
Well, I don't really have much to say for this AI image generation one, but I think a lot of those April Fools were that, and it takes some of the creativity maybe away from trying to do something kind of interesting.
This is my thought, right? I imagine if you work in an office in a marketing team, somebody at some point every year gets the task of coming up with the AI idea. And, in the past, when they put in tons and tons of effort into it, I think it makes it more enjoyable. So I think it's a bit of a shame. I would say it has made it too easy, but you still need to think of something funny, something that's going to land, right? You can't just AI me you probably could actually. You probably could literally ask AI to say, "Here's my brand. Here's our website. Here's our products. Do me an April Fool's joke." We would never.
It does make it too easy because, well, I mean, I like that it allows people who maybe wouldn't have been able to, or didn't have the technical ability to do something, to maybe do something now. But that's me clutching at straws. The reality is, it is now too easy to say, okay, like this, here's an idea. Let's make a funny image, take something we've done, edit it with AI, and then it's done. And there means we'll have more jokes, and they may still be very funny, but it does take away a little bit of the kind of points for effort.
Totally. So final one here was Forza Horizon 6 will save Xbox. It's a big expression, but it is very, very pertinent, is this, because Xbox is struggling. Changes of at their leadership there, changes of strategy potentially. I think, Tom, you went with Dead End.
Yes. For one, I have one strong thought about this, that Forza Horizon 6 will not save Xbox, but it will help Steam Machine. I fully intend to get a Steam Machine in my living room so that I can play things like Forza Horizon 6 on a controller on the couch. And given that you have a choice of Steam or Xbox, I've already got a big Steam library of games that I've been adding to for the last 15 years or however long. Why would I start with a new platform, right? I think it's only going to get their existing users to renew, buy the next Xbox, whatever. I don't think it's going to drag new users away from PlayStation or Steam.
I actually think it's a strong dead end in a sense where I could argue that Forza Horizon in some ways has been the franchise that has helped pin the nail in the coffin for Xbox. Because obviously to recuperate some of the money, I guess, we've seen Forza, and that's just a theory, we've seen Forza Horizon moving over to PlayStation in order for the Horizon franchise to get the money it deserves as a franchise, if that makes sense. So now you've got the option to play it on PlayStation, you've got the option to play it on PC. It just means that, no one is going to buy an Xbox for Forza Horizon anymore. And if you already have an Xbox, okay, you'd probably already buy Forza. But now, if you've got something else, maybe you don't buy it on Xbox. Maybe you buy it somewhere else. I just don't see, even if it's successful on Xbox, I do not see it saving Xbox.
Yeah, so I agree so much with both of these points, but I went full send just to be contrarian. So how am I going to work this out? But just to quickly discuss that, we live in an age where Starfield, Gears of War, Halo, Forza Horizon, they're all available on PlayStation, right? And through Steam. And even, what's that one with ships that you love, Tom?
Oh, Sea of Thieves.
Yeah,
Big fan.
That's all on PlayStation. So I think what Microsoft has done has gone, right, we've bought Bethesda, we've bought Activision. Oh, that's many, many billions. How are we going to get some of that cost back? Right. Well, we actually put it onto platforms where people actually still buy games, because also Game Pass, I think, has eroded the number of game sales. So it is a dead end. However, let's try and think positive, because I said full send. The money used from selling Forza Horizon 6 on PlayStation, which will be many, many millions, will be used to fund the next generation of Xbox and also turn around their strategy to be more... I think they will actually reverse on this for the next generation. I have a feeling that they might do more, keep things exclusive for longer. And this is sort of the way of earning the cash for that. But I'm clutching at straws. I should also say that Forza Horizon 6, a very clever thing, they're trying to make it save Xbox because they're saying in all the adverts, play it first on Xbox and Game Pass on PC. Play it first, blah, 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 blah. It's coming on PlayStation this year. They know when. They're just not telling anyone yet. And I think within a week of it being released, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, give it 3 weeks, then we'll have the release date, because it's still coming out in 2026. So it'll probably be out October time, I guess, September, October. It won't actually be that long till PlayStation. So they're trying and failing miserably. Right, community questions. So first one is not so much a question; it's just a comment, just to reiterate that you can comment on Spotify. Thank you to those who do. We try to reply to some that are interesting on there. And Snake said, "I wish I could."
They're all interesting.
Sorry, they're all interesting, but the more interesting ones we do reply. Good recovery there.
No, it's not.
No, it wasn't.
If you don't have a reply, you can now say that THL said you're not interested enough.
Oh, my word.
Tom's like, can we read it?
No, we're going for it. So Snake said, I wish I could play Le Mans Ultimate. It looks like a lot of fun. The car contact system seems to be better than ACC. Now, we don't know, but I'm assuming this person is playing on console where you can play ACC. And if that is the case, then, well, it's coming next year in some form to your device. So, looking forward to that. Right, first question, and this is actually a big one, and I don't know how to answer it just yet. The Chosen One on Discord, there is a podcast section there. You can just chat about the podcast, but also put in random questions, and we may answer them on the episode. So, The Chosen One says, another question that I'd be interested in hearing your opinion about. What do you think is a good pricing model for sim racing titles? Studios need to generate revenue, but there are some different approaches such as paid subscriptions, DLCs, or one-time purchase, which would be both sustainable and fair to the casual player. Are there any other possible payment models? That's a big topic. I'm just going to throw it your way, John.
I think there's a really challenging one here, because there's what's fair for the player, and then there's what's actually going to make enough money to keep the lights on and keep it going. Because obviously we all just like a one-time purchase and for it not to be crazy expensive. And you could argue that's fair for the player, but it might not actually be enough for survival. So first of all, the game just needs to be good enough, but that's not the question. I think if we can avoid subscription models, I think that's definitely a positive for sure, wherever possible. But I understand that subscriptions are the way. I just feel like there are too many subscriptions across life nowadays where, like, it's all very well and good saying, oh, our thing, if you enjoy it enough, you'll pay for a subscription, you'll be willing to pay for it, it's fine. The problem is that applies to every single different element of our lives now, from media to gaming, to anything to do with bills. It all feels like subscriptions and standing orders and all sorts. And I think it just becomes chaos to try and maintain and manage. So I would love there not to be subscriptions that you're forced to do. I don't mind being given a choice. I think that's an interesting take that Le Mans Ultimate specifically has gone for, where you can either choose to subscribe to the game and all the content, and you don't actually own it, or you can just purchase it outright separately. So I think that's a good one as an option. DLCs, I would like these things to be one-time purchases as well. And I just wouldn't want there to be any like pay to win. That's the big thing for me. There can be pay for liveries, there can be pay for an additional car in a class, as long as it's not in any way made to be faster than the rest of the cars in that class, for example. So that's where I stand on it.
My thoughts are that the subscription landscape that we're in is symptomatic of the licensing landscapes that the studios have to live within, right? So they'll buy a license for a track. As soon as that license expires, if they don't pay for it again, then the game no longer exists, right? And we've seen examples of that recently. So I think you have to have DLCs or subscriptions, because there are ongoing costs for the games, right? So to have the online special events, there's a cost to that. There's a maintenance cost to that. DLCs, new tracks, new cars cost money, because you have to buy those licenses for a set period of time. And I've never seen a DLC that it says if you buy this, if you pay for this DLC, you'll have these 3 cars for 3 years, and after that they're gone. Like, that doesn't exist, right? So, but the studio would still have to renew that license, and for all we know, the price could go up with inflation. It probably does every 3 years, right? Or however long the period is. So I think it depends what kind of game you're trying to be, and if we look back, you can kind of see what types of games the games have become that have used subscriptions. And you can see what kind of games the games have become that have used one-time purchases. The one-time purchases all die, because you can't just keep supporting it. You can't keep paying for the servers. You can't keep bringing new content because it's expensive. And then you look at something like iRacing, and iRacing over decades has flourished and become, in my opinion, probably the premier sim racing title, because they have this ongoing income which reflects their ongoing outgoings. That was a conky sentence. I'm sorry. So if from a user's point of view, I would probably prefer DLCs, but DLCs to apply, similar to how LMU does it, right? So I'd be more than happy to pay for a base game and then pay for DLCs whenever new cars and tracks come out, and then perhaps be asked to pay for access to like special events, right? So let's say there's a special event one weekend. If you want to take part in that, it's $2.99 and you get access to the practice servers and the official events, right? Because there just is a cost to that. And if you want that event calendar to keep progressing over time and to get better and to be broadcasted and blah, 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 there just simply is a cost to it. That's if that's what you want, right? You want up-to-date content, you want online content. If you want to play through a story mode, well, then it's a one-time purchase, right? But just know that in 3 or 4 years' time, this game that you spent 50 quid on will be dead. The servers will be turned off, and no one will be playing it. You've got to choose one or the other. I think you can't have both.
Yeah, there isn't a clear answer, unfortunately, the chosen one, because especially you both mentioned it there. Licensing costs are the big kicker here. It's not clear, and because it's all private information, but a lot of the time, these licenses are for a certain time frame, or the studio has to pay per year an amount, and that has to be covered. Otherwise, the track is deleted. Right. Then there's another element of all the special events. There's the coding of the damage system and the safety ratings and the driver ratings and the upkeep of that, and the stewarding. Oh well, if they might not have stewarding on it, but if there is an option, and the servers to make that all run, that's an ongoing cost. So there has to be some form of recurring revenue, whether that's subscription or DLC packs that come out every quarter. So, yeah, there's a balance in there. I don't think we've got the right model for the consumer at the minute. I mean, I do think that sim racing is a luxury, especially if you've got your wheels and your pedals and your monitor and your PC. So you're already aiming at relatively affluent people, to sound elitist a bit there. If we broaden this up to general gaming, I'd just like a one-time purchase for the more accessible games, but that wasn't the question. The question was specifically sim racing. So that there will always be either subscriptions or DLC for the rest of our lives if the licensing and server costs do not change, which, if anything, they're increasing.
Good point that you've both made, really, and it's interesting, the sim racing specific element to this, like iRacing's model where you're paying a subscription over a long time. It is mega expensive versus a lot of other racing games, and of course a lot of other sim racing titles. It is just very expensive. But once you've already committed to because it's a one-time purchase within a subscription, you pay a lot of money to buy a certain car and track, and then you're having to essentially pay a subscription just to be able to access that stuff that you've already bought. So you'll have hundreds of pounds worth of content that you can't access unless you're paying a subscription. Then that content becomes out of date or legacy content. Maybe the races don't ever happen. So you buy a car and then that car, the official races are not popular. And then it's a catch-22 thing where you cannot ever find the number of people to actually race that car. That's obviously just a risk you take as a consumer as well. But it's a very difficult question, as you say, because you need these titles to thrive and survive, especially those who aren't replacing their games with sequels, because I think that's another totally separate thing. If you've got another game coming out in 5 years, and iRacing 2, you have less of a need to be able to sustain that level of income because you know that there's a second game coming which is going to give you another boost. So it's a mega complicated topic, and there is no right answer, especially one that suits the consumer and the person making the game.
I think the hybrid model here that we're discussing, where you buy a game, a one-off purchase, and you get access to the cars and tracks that are announced there in a single player mode, and perhaps some access to multiplayer, is fair. But then I think like a season pass is then the best way to then unlock access to all of the premium online stuff. And you could make it so that if you've got the season pass, each season pass comes with new content as well. So, I think people in 2026 should expect to pay for a game up front and have to pay for the continued development of that game. Because, when a game comes out, you pay for it. The whole community is expecting there to be patches and updates and new content and whatnot. And you can't expect that and then not have to pay for it. But then I guess if you look at Gran Turismo, is it a sim? Is it not? Who knows? That's not today. But they do. You only pay for it once, right?
Yeah. So I think this is also a really good point, and we'll move on quickly. But I think that provided the base game is substantial enough to justify the cost, that's one thing. So I totally agree with that, provided it's up to snuff. Then there's also an element of when it is season passes and DLCs and stuff, I don't mind that, provided that there is at least, let's say, behind the DLCs, a whole new car class. Well, I think there should at least be one of those included for everybody. So at least you can enter the races within that car class. But then if you want the fancier car, or the different cars that look the same but have the same look different but have the same performance, you can pay that. That's also fine.
That'll help those who actually have the DLC as well, because it means there's more online races.
Exactly.
With them. Sorry.
No, but exactly, this is the thing, because you don't want to buy the DLC and what you were saying earlier, John, and then no one's really in the races. But if you have an element of that that's included or free, that really helps. And then the other thing is Gran Turismo 7, yes, that is for another time. But you're right, every update is completely free, except there are in-game microtransactions. So it's another way of doing it, or I suspect that is helping fund the free updates. And if you want to grind or earn the credits, you can. If you want to pay some money and get it quick, you can. I don't know. Polyphony or Sony will never say how much those work or sell, but here we are many years after release and it's still going, so it must work. Okay, right. Next comment is from TFCN. Do you think the new PEGI laws are going to affect racing games much or not at all? This is to do with a recent ruling, we'll keep it very, very brief, this one, that if a game has sort of loot box style mechanics within it, it has to be rated 16 plus because it falls within something to do with slightly related to gambling. I think it will affect some racing games. It won't affect sim racing games like iRacing or Le Mans Ultimate that we just mentioned, but it does affect, I think, if I think back to the Hot Wheels games that have elements that remind me of this, and if there's going to be another one of those, if I think of, well, Test Drive Unlimited is already an 18 because it has a casino in there, but there's also some other mechanics in there. I think about EA Sports and what they might do with future games in the going forward in the racing genre. Things like this, the more accessible games, I think it does affect them, but there's not obvious examples right now.
It totally comes down to in-game purchases and stuff. So you've got like Forza wheel spins, for example, which are a similar sort of looking thing. But if you don't have to buy those, or if you don't have an option to actually buy those with real money, then it doesn't count at all, and that's a fun element.
I don't think you do on Forza.
So Forza, for example, is okay. It's the games, as you say, where you're having to, or you're not having to, but you're encouraged to buy real currency to then go and spend on these spins. I feel very strongly about this law in general across the wider world of gaming, because I think it is. I think absolutely is a problem from what I've seen, and even just growing up myself with some of these games, and it's so tempting to just nip down to the local supermarket and buy a voucher and start trying to get a gold player on FIFA or whatever it is. And when you're younger, it's potentially even, you have less awareness of the fact that you're essentially being almost coerced into that situation by the game. It's quite clever, or it's kind of clever psychological play. So I do have strong feelings about it, but I do think that of all the genres for gaming, sim racing or racing games are less affected than many other mainstream genres. So it's all relative, and I think that sim racing will be one of the least affected, or racing games will be one of the least affected, but it still will be affected to some degree.
Yes, that is a very deep topic there, John. I fully agree with what you're saying, though. Not the choice is going to hugely affect, but certain games possibly. Right, we'll keep an eyes peeled on that. More on that on the Traxion.gg website. Or you can watch some videos on the Traxion.gg YouTube. Or you can follow the weekly email newsletter by Tom. Or subscribe to this very podcast on YouTube, a specific channel, and on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, or your favourite podcast app. And we'll be back next week with the return of the quiz, Tom.
Well, yes, we've had a comment from Jack4688 who says, can you bring back the podcast quiz? Fair question. He goes on to say, I don't care how much Tom hates it, just bring it back, please. So a little bit hurt. My feelings are not being considered for this decision, but you know what? It was fun, and I do need to up my game, and maybe it will inspire me to do more studying on my 1978 to 1979 Finnish rally drivers who were or are gluten-free. So I will do that research and let's bring back the quiz.
Yep, so we'll be back next week with the quiz, the return of the quiz. I need to also look up what the current running total is. I think John's slightly ahead. And on that note, goodbye.